All right, we are at 401. So my name is Matt Bezick, and I am the Executive Director for the Oregon Trio Association. And I'm glad you could join us here today. We are doing an informational call for some summer abroad programming, and I'm excited to be doing this. This is year 2 of our partnership with CIEE, and I have Ian here. I'm going to have introduce himself in just a moment. But the plan for today is that we are going to talk about kind of what this experience is, right? Like, what does it mean to do a summer abroad trip with CIEE? We have, I've seen at least one alumni, an Oregon Trio student who got a free trip with us last summer down to South Africa. So we're just going to provide some context about kind of what that experience actually looks like, as well as some of the application processes. One of our Trio advisors who's here with us was also their advisor, who kind of helped along through that process. So kind of answer any questions, just talk about everything hopefully you need to know for the opportunities that we've kind of set up for this coming year, as well as give CIEE, who we're actually partnering with, they're the ones who actually do the trips, a chance to kind of present what these are and kind of timelines and answer some of those questions as well. So this partnership kind of started last year because we got some funding from the state of Oregon, and we wanted to invest that in creating some international education opportunities for Trio students here in Oregon. So what we're going to be presenting on today is kind of how, between the partnership between us, there are opportunities potentially to do free summer abroad travels. There are some scholarship funds you can earn through CIEE, as well as our own scholarship funds that we can use to help pay remaining tuition costs, flight costs, kind of all of those sort of things. But regardless of whether or not you are one of the students selected to be a part of like the Oregon Trio cohort, you can still apply to really any program you want throughout the world through CIEE and through some of these scholarships that we're going to show you here. So I think next I'm going to kind of hand the floor over to Ian here. Ian is with CIEE, and have you introduced yourself and kind of maybe kick us off and just kind of explain what the summer abroad experience looks like through CIEE.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Matt. I have a slide deck prepared. Would now be a good time to go into that? Or do you want me to introduce myself first and then you present and I present? How would you like to do that?
No, let's just start with the official stuff. So yeah, you
all right.
Feel free to take
the official slide deck. All right. Well, let me share my screen. All right, can everyone see my slide that says CIEE this summer experience the world? Perfect, great. So my name is Ian Hippensteel, as Matt said. I'm here with CIEE. We are a nonprofit educational partner with Oregon Trio. So I'd like to thank everyone for making time for us to share more information about our programs. Just a brief information about me. I've been with CIEE for a relatively short period of time. I just started this year. My title is Global Education Advisor. So as Matt said, we work with organizations like Oregon Trio, but we also work with high schools and high school students from across the US. So as a global education advisor, I specifically work with like a certain territory. So basically that is Washington State, Oregon, and Northern California. So I personally benefited quite significantly as a high schooler by studying abroad in Japan. We studied in Tokyo and Osaka the summer in between my junior and senior year. It was a very short-term trip, just 3 weeks. And it was, in just 3 weeks, it was just an absolutely life-changing experience. So it's a real privilege to be able to talk to you all today. Let's see. I'm gonna skip that slide. So hopefully everyone can see a student testimonial slide. If there are any technical issues, just feel free to let me know in the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat while I present. But one thing that we have that I think is a fairly unique component of our programs is that we have some programs that are 3 weeks, some that are 4 weeks. All of our 4-week programs and some of our 3-week programs have what's called a host family component, where students actually live and spend a significant amount of time with kind of host parents or a host family that really helps them learn the local language and really immerse themselves in the local culture. So we have a student testimonial here from Mike, who had a very life-changing experience specifically with his host family and is actually traveling to meet up with them in December. Another aspect that we're really proud of featuring throughout our programs is that we bring in, as Matt touched on, we bring in students from, not only specific places, like high schools, local to Oregon, but throughout the country. So students may be on program with, some of their friends from, their own particular high school or from, a local nonprofit program provider. But even if they're in a class or a small group environment with their friends, they'll have the chance to make larger, more, kind of widespread connections with students from all across the country. So some of our programs can range in size between, as many as like 80 or 90 students on programs. So even though class sizes are, quite small, typically about 20 or so students, in a particular classroom environment, students could be on program with several dozen more. So Megan here shares that she was able to make really great friendships and learned a lot about not only her host country but also herself through these connections. So that's something that we're very happy to see and quite proud to offer. And then finally, we have a student testimonial from Quinn, who had, I would say, a pretty similar experience to me, just speaking personally. Quinn had the opportunity to really kind of fine tune and pinpoint what she was interested in doing in her life, in terms of her, study, her major in college, et cetera. We found that students really often on our programs, when they take advantage of these opportunities as high schoolers, they're able to really pinpoint what they want to do after the fact, whether that be high school, or even as far as like the workforce. It really helps you not only gain skills, but also pinpoint your interests, your passions, et cetera. So that's something that, is always just really, really wonderful to see from alums like Quinn. We have programs, as you can see from this handy dandy little map over here, we have programs basically all over the world. These little dots, for our visual learners in the virtual room, these little dots represent where we take students, where we take high school students in summer of 2023. Now, this isn't necessarily, all encompassing, because we might offer some programs, or rather we might offer multiple programs in certain cities / countries, but these are just the, kind of dot points as to where we'll go. So, there are, for instance, multiple programs that travel to, Madrid, for instance, or Paris. So there's lots of opportunities, lots of choices to choose from, but, we're very proud of, kind of being able to build back, especially after the events of the last couple of years. We're always looking to offer, more and more programs, and we really hope to be as worldwide as possible. So this is what our map of summer 2023 will look like. And I think there's some really, really exciting choices for you and your students. So speaking just a little bit about CIEE, Matt gave a great introduction. We are a nonprofit program partner with Oregon Trio. We are 75 years old as of 2022. We support over 30,000 students every year. Now, that's not all just high school students. In fact, most of our students are at the college level. So we support over 30,000 students every year in terms of bringing students from the United States to study abroad in international destinations and vice versa. We also do exchange programs. We do really cool endeavors like training teachers, training world language teachers. We work with folks of all ages. We are a nonprofit organization, which allows us specifically to fundraise and offer scholarship opportunities to students. So as Matt mentioned, regardless of if you're on this call, regardless of whether or not you participate within like the Oregon Trio cohort, we work with schools and students from across the country, and we're actually able to offer the largest scholarship fund for US high school students, which stands for summer of 2023, stands at $5.4 million. So regardless of the type of program, be it a 3-week program or a 4-week program, or regardless of where you go, based on that map from a couple slides ago, your day-to-day schedule will look a little bit like this. So from Monday through Friday during the week, we offer 2 to 3 hours, typically in the mornings, of interactive classes or workshops. These can be sometimes in a classroom environment, very similar to your, US-based high school environment, or it can be, more kind of hands-on, like symposium-based. So that's typically in the morning. In the afternoon, there is kind of a hybrid mix of learning opportunities through, hands-on cultural exploration, as well as free time to explore. So there are, for instance, a lot of our programs offer assignments in the afternoon where, if you are learning a particular language, for instance, you would be tasked with interviewing, kind of a person on the street, similar to what you see on this slide. So students would be tasked with interviewing locals, gathering information, learning the language, etc. So it's very much a hands-on, out and about type of opportunity in the afternoons. Every weekend, regardless of if a student is on a 3-week or a 4-week program, every weekend there's one day trip as well as one overnight excursion. So that's, we find that to be a very exciting, again, very hands-on way for a student to really immerse themselves in the culture. Let's dive a little bit deeper into these 3-week programs that I'm mentioning. So these 3-week programs are what we call thematic programs. These thematic programs are not necessarily designed to really have students take a deep dive into the local language. They are, heavily culture-based in terms of the host culture of the host country, but the language of instruction in these 3-week programs is English. So in these 3-week programs, students often pick up quite a bit of, knowledge and very immersive experience in their host country. But these 3-week programs are particularly focused on a different theme. So these themes can be within the sciences, or perhaps the arts, or business, leadership, or diplomacy. Diplomacy as kind of like a diplomacy/international relations type of thing. So one example is what you see in this slide, tropical sustainability in Costa Rica. We also have a really popular program on diplomacy, for instance, where students travel to Copenhagen to learn about international relations and kind of the International Criminal Court. One of our most popular arts-based programs is our K-pop immersion program in Seoul, South Korea. So there's lots of really cool 3-week programs that focus on one of these 5 different areas. Some of our 3-week programs offer up to 50 hours of service learning credit, 50 hours, which looks amazing on a college application. Speaking of which, in terms of college applications, it varies from year to year, but typically only between 2% and 3% of American college applicants have any study abroad experience or any immersive international education experience. So in terms of setting yourself apart as a college applicant, it really helps you gain a competitive edge to study abroad. And then if you can tack on service learning on top of it, that's definitely just the icing on the cake. So contrast the 3-week programs with these 4-week language and culture programs that I was mentioning earlier. The 3-week programs, in terms of the living environment, These will be in the 3-week programs. Typically, it'll look like a student dorm or maybe a hostel or a hotel type of environment. In these 4-week programs, these are the ones I was mentioning in the very first slide of the student testimonial, where you'll actually be staying with a host family. So in these 4-week programs, it's really a deep dive into the local language and the local culture. So you're really, the object is to learn as much of these 7 languages that you see at the top of the slide or top right of the slide as possible. So we offer programs in Spanish, French, German, Italian, Arabic, Japanese, and Chinese. As I mentioned, these 4-week programs have a local homestay. So students will be staying with a host family. We've found, basically due to kind of a mix of, how hands-on the curriculum is, plus how helpful it is to speak the local language at home with a homestay. So you're basically speaking and learning the language 24/7. So we found that 1 month or 4 weeks on these programs is roughly equal to 1 year of knowledge gained in an entire year of high school. So basically, the average American high school student picks up about as much Spanish or French, German, etc., as a student on one of our 4-week programs. For these 4-week programs, we also offer the opportunity for students to earn up to 4 college credits, which is a very great and very cost-effective way to start to get a head start on college. So students' peace of mind and students' health, safety, and well-being is really our top priority at CIEE. All of our participants are required to be vaccinated for COVID-19. All of our participants travel on chaperoned flights, meaning students would be traveling by themselves. Students typically travel in a ratio of about a dozen or so students to 1 program leader. We also offer a full refund if a program is canceled due to COVID-19 or travel restrictions or anything like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about those scholarships that I mentioned briefly earlier. So as I said, we do offer $5.4 million annually in scholarship. These are given out in one of 2 different ways. So first, there's merit and financial needs scholarships. These are given to U.S. citizens or permanent residents. These are given to freshmen, sophomores, or juniors in high school. And these are only given at this time only once per student, meaning if you study abroad with us in summer of 2023 and you get a merit and financial needs scholarship, you wouldn't be able to study, you wouldn't be able to earn the same scholarship in summer of 2024. So merit and financial needs scholarships range from 10% all the way up to 100% of program tuition and fees. Contrast that with merit scholarships. Merit scholarships are 10%, capped at 10% of the program tuition and fees, but these are offered to seniors as well as international students, and these are given out multiple times. So meaning, you can earn one of these in summer of 2023, as well as summer of 2024, et cetera, et cetera. What does a application to CIEE actually look like? Well, when I've spoken with students in the past, they say that typically all of these steps that you see on the slide in front of you take between 2 and 3 hours total to complete. And it's really just, not a 3-hour chunk at once. You want to kind of break it up into different sections and really work on it for 20 to 30 minutes here and there, especially these short essays at the top. These are kind of like personal statements, very similar to what you can expect on a smaller scale, but similar to what you can expect, when you'll eventually fill out college applications. So we're really just trying to get to know students as individuals, get to know their interests, their goals, and how study abroad fits into that. So we do require 3 short essay questions. These are 1 to 2 paragraphs each. We require current transcripts with your most recent posted grades. We require 1 letter of recommendation from a teacher. This doesn't necessarily have to be a current teacher. This can be any teacher who really knows you as a student and who can speak to your abilities, your interests, et cetera. And then for anyone applying to financial aid, we also require some financial supporting documents from parents and family. So right now, we are currently offering a few different ways to apply. For students who are not interested in applying for scholarship, they're able to apply right now. We offer rolling admissions, meaning if you are able to get in your application today, for instance, you would hear back very quickly. But if students are applying for financial aid / scholarships, there's two different deadlines. The final hard and fast deadline that everything absolutely needs to be in by is January 18th. So anyone who gets their materials in by January 18th can expect to hear back about their program decision as well as their financial aid and scholarship by the end of February. But we are currently offering an incentive, what we call like an early bird discount. So anyone who's able to complete an application by the 1st of December, so a few weeks from now, is entered into a raffle to win a chance to win a free flight to and from program. So it's a great way to get potentially all of the program tuition and fees covered. So two different ways to apply. I have a QR code right here for any students who wish to apply or for any students who wish to scan the QR code. That'll take you to our website, which will take you to a space where you can put in information and learn more about our programs. But it's also, as you can see on the left-hand side of this slide, you can also go to ciee.org/HSSA to look at basically everything that I just went over in terms of the scholarships, in terms of the financial aid options, and in terms of the in-depth look at each of those 3 and 4 week programs that I mentioned. So you can really take a deeper dive via this QR code, learn more about the programs that might pique your interest, and then learn about the financial aid process from there. So real quick, I'm going to just jump ahead. This is what an application actually looks like. I just did a screenshot on mobile. So I just want to kind of show everyone, just to kind of underscore that it's, really to open an application, it's a very quick and easy process. So if you were to scan that QR code earlier, it would take you to the screen on the left-hand side where you would click on the Create a High School Summer Abroad account towards the bottom. And then that would take you to the middle slide, which will basically be a space to kind of sign up. To sign up, input some information, and then on the right-hand side, you would indicate your high school, set up a password, etc. And then it would take you here where you can actually click on Start an Application. And then from there, as I mentioned, it would take you on the right-hand side where you would learn more about the scholarships, indicate what type of scholarship you would apply for, et cetera. So that is really all it takes to start an application. So it's a very quick and easy process to start. And again, as I mentioned, for folks who are applying to financial aid, they indicate that it can take, a couple hours, up to, 2.5, 3 hours or so. But it's a really manageable process if you take it kind of one step or one chunk at a time. So I think that about covers it for me. Do you want, Matt, should we do questions now, or did you want to kind of fill in more information and then we can just both of us tackle questions at the very end? How would you want to do it?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do questions at the end so I can kind of fill in some of that, the non-CIEE stuff.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. And I think what I might do now, because I still want to kind of focus on the program specific stuff and just kind of, is this a thing that's worth going on? And should you recommend a student to apply? If you're a student, is this something worth going on? So Emilio, if you're there and you're willing to turn your camera on, I would love to just ask you a couple questions. Oh, wonderful. So last summer in July, I was one of the chaperones that got to go with our group of students, and Emilio here was one of the students that got to go with us, and he is nice enough to join us here today. So you don't need to, not expect you to talk forever, but I would love for you to just give some perspective on from the student who actually got to go on one of these and be on like a CIEE trip, just kind of what was that experience like for you during those 3 weeks?
Yeah, so where do you want me to start, Matt? Just like what I thought about it, or because it was a
Yeah,
lot. It was a lot.
it's a lot. Just start like big picture. I think that's a good place.
Yeah, so I think the bigger picture was like first going out there, you'd gone for 3 weeks with supposedly like a group of random students. I knew a couple of students going up, but like for the most part, pretty random, and you get that sense of independence, like being gone from your family and like your parents and all that stuff. But while you're over there, you have your I think they're called like group leaders. And we got lucky enough. Matt was one of my group leaders, and they were very amazing. They're pretty much your parents while you're over there. So like if you're scared of like not being taken care of because you don't have your family, you don't have to worry about that at all. Because the group leaders do a great job. But while I was over there, it was super cool being able to like learn their history, like another country's history that I've never learned about before. Um, And I think it also helped me like solidify what I'm choosing to do for college because I want to be an immigration lawyer in the future. And my parents have like a past with that. So I kind of wanted to, do my part of giving back and then going to South Africa and learning on how like they had so many apartheids and like they split a lot. It really influenced me on what I want to do. So that's what that trip did for me. And then going over there, we visited like a lot of townships and did a lot of things. And you can hear about poverty all you want, but when you actually see it in play, it's like really life changing. And it's really made me grateful for what I have. And it just made me want to do more for my community. I've been giving back a lot more. And just like that little 3 week excursion, really, I think it has like formulated my future in a different way. Um, I also put here that like we learned a good chunk about South Africa, and being educated on a little bit of that stuff has helped me like formulate better opinions on things that happen like in our own country. Like having that comparison is really valuable, and I just really don't see a reason on why people wouldn't want to go on this trip because I really don't think I could say anything negative about it because even like the most boring times you could say, like the people you were with, you figured out ways to make it fun. um But overall, yeah, that was really what I thought about the trip. It was great.
I mean, everything. So we did a theme trip as well. Ours was like leadership through Nelson Mandela's example. The two that OTA is sponsoring again this year will be the theme ones. Ian had kind of touched on those. Everything Emilio has touched on so far is mostly like the academic stuff. He first forgot to mention that we got to just do a ton of like fun things.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like what are some of like the just cool things you got to do as like a tourist?
Yeah, so we were able to like explore the center of Cape Town. That was really cool. Like we saw their historical things. We went on an overnight excursion to a safari, which we saw like lions, elephants, zebras, giraffes, hippos. Like we saw all that stuff and it was super cool. And then we also got to stay overnight there, which was also a lot of fun. I'd say one of the most fun parts though, like the excursions are made, like the things you do throughout the trip are amazing, but being able to like, at least in my situation, we shared, it was 5 guys in one room, and just being able to like share that and like talk, just like mess around. I think that was one of the most fun times because like you really start bonding and it becomes amazing. I just think I thought the learning part was my favorite, but the excursions are really like a little cherry on top.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's great. And kind of what he said. I mean, the people, like my perspective is there and kind of facilitating. Like my job is to keep them safe, keep us on schedule and stuff. But just seeing how close a lot of the students got, like it's scary and it's intimidating at first. But like Emilio spent a ton of time with two students who like weren't from, like there was a couple students from his high school that went on the
Mhm.
trip, but he became like really good friends with these two other students, and they would just go off and get in all kinds of like shenanigans that are
Mhm.
like allowable shenanigans, right? Like nobody was getting in actual trouble. But
Yeah.
what was like even like the travel part and some of the logistics parts in terms of like how did like the structure of like CIEE handle just all of that stuff from your perspective?
It was pretty straightforward. The only thing that was a little bit tough was like the packing, but luckily you sent us a list and we were able to like base on what we should pack based off that list. But we had like an itinerary on like what to bring. Like they really gave us all the information. You just had to follow the steps, and if you followed the steps, you were fine. Um, when we got to the airport, we just met up with Matt. It was pretty straightforward from there. I've traveled before, so it was pretty simple, but even if you didn't travel, they gave you all the directions on your phone, so you could just like look at that and you'd be fine from there. We traveled, so we landed at one location and we stayed there for 4 days, and then we went to another location, and we just traveled as a big group. So we didn't really have to worry about like individual flights or any of that, because like Matt and our other group leaders were just in charge of that. So really it was just following directions and we were okay.
Last question. Do you have any maybe advice or perspective to offer kind of about the application process and then kind of like all the paperwork that happens once you're selected to like go on this experience?
For the application process, I just say just start it. Once you get it started, it just kind of like goes from there. Um, Getting help from like an English teacher would probably be good, because like you can run it through people. I had Kelly that was helping me a lot. She was like giving me ideas to like do, so that was really useful. Um, and what was the second part of that?
Like once you were selected and knew you got picked right after
Mm.
this initial scholarship application, there was all the paperwork that was required so you could actually like travel abroad as a minor, right? So like,
Mhm.
are there any tips or advice that you would offer up in terms of that process?
I would say just get it done early. Ask your parents like for all that information, and then the quicker you get it done, as soon as you have it all ready, just like put it in a folder, and then just keep that folder safe until you do have to travel. Um, that's what I did at least. I knew where all my info was, so I was okay. But like if you don't have it, like the earlier you get it done, the less problems you'll have once the time comes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And Kelly, do you mind on meeting here? So Kelly actually had 4 of her students from her talent search program got to go on this trip to South Africa last year. She had a lot apply, but 4 of them were selected. So I'm curious from your perspective as like that Trio advisor helping facilitate students. Do you have any like advice or tips for folks as they're kind of starting this process for this year?
Sure, sure. Yeah. So a lot of students are interested in the process and interested in the trip. And the application process is straightforward, but it does take time. And so my recommendation is just start it. Like Emilio said, I mean, just start it. And for the students that are at Grants Pass High School that are on this call, I'm available and I'm happy to answer questions. And Matt was always a great person. I could email him questions when things came up that I didn't know the answers to. It's just start the process, because like anything, if you wait till the last minute, there's things that get missed. And, once the students were accepted, as an advisor, we met about once a month. We just got together because they didn't know each other very well prior to the trip, and I wanted them to have some people that they knew on that trip, or they knew somewhat well. And so um after the 4 students from Grants Pass got accepted, I met with them and just sort of talked about like, hey, what are your concerns? And lo and behold, a lot of them had similar concerns. And like, what are you most looking forward to? And they really, the 4 of them that went, I mean, they were such a great support for one another. And whether they hung out with one another on the trip was irrelative. It was more that they knew one another. It's like, oh, I know him. He's got my back, or she's got my back. Um and so it was a fantastic experience from my point of view, but definitely dotting the I's, crossing the T's. There's details. And for the younger students that maybe are not as familiar with applications and scholarships, it's definitely, it's a learning process, getting your transcripts, making sure you have your passport and all these things. But we are here to help you. And that's what our job is to make this process easier. And Ian's here and Matt's here. And then for those of you that are, here in Southern Oregon, I see another advisor from Project Youth Plus, Monet. I mean, we're here to help one another. And the experience is, I'm so proud of the students that went, and I was so excited to hear about their experience overseas. And I'm a firm believer that going overseas, seeing other cultures, learning about other cultures does give you a perspective. Like I liked what Emilio shared. It gives you a perspective, a different perspective. And I feel like oftentimes that can be life-changing.
Thank you, Kelly. And yeah, just to reiterate, like that's, questions could come directly to me if you're a student, if you're particularly as an advisor, right? Like in general, we're going to funnel things. That's one of the resources you can all serve, right? We're here to remove barriers, and these can be complex processes, especially even after you're selected, because there's insurance stuff and passport stuff. Like it can be a lot. So just being a resource, helping. Questions that come to me, I often just send to like Ian. I was working with somebody else last year, but they're so helpful, even with things. We all got like a message that said all of our trips were being canceled because there was some just hiccup on the flight end. And like it was very worrisome for a couple hours, but I was able to like reach out to somebody at CIEE, and they're like, oh my gosh, that was some automated thing. Don't worry about that. And like immediately get answers. So they've been really good to work about. So I appreciate both you kind of providing some perspective here. I'm going to start sharing my screen here and just start going into like specifics for this opportunity that's coming up next summer. So what you see here is our Oregon Trio Association website that is highlighting kind of the summer abroad scholarship program. So I also have on here some web pages. So this is CIEE's website. It's CIEE.org. This is the summer abroad page. So you can see on here, I know Ian showed on a map, but there's just this big, long list of countries you can go to. Any one of you can apply to any of these, right? Like there's nothing stopping you from applying to any of these because you can win scholarship funds. Like you said, if you apply before the first, you might even be able to win flight vouchers to be able to pay for these. If you have enough funding or you can do enough fundraising, you can just go on any of these, right? If you can pay the full price, that's one of the challenges we face working with TRIO students. But if you can just afford to pay the tuition and the flight costs, you can just go on essentially any of these. What we're trying to do is provide some more affordable options to make that happen, right? That's where some of the scholarships come in. So there is this on the scholarship pay, the Global Navigator scholarships. I do want to reiterate that a big chunk of the funds that are that $5 million go more towards the language programs, more so than the theme programs. That's where most of the funding goes. Now, the two that we are picking and supporting are theme-based. So if you're looking to go with us and kind of get the supplemented funding with us, like you can certainly still do that. But if you have interest in like doing just any of these or traveling the world, you are more than welcome to do those. And if you pick a language one, you can certainly do that. And you don't have to like be fluent already. Like they have various levels in the language program. So don't be intimidated maybe because you're not fluent in French because you've taken a few courses. And I did see that they started some today, but right now they have these big virtual fairs going on. If you want to learn more about the programs or hear some student panel discussions, right, and get some general info from them, there are some webinars you can register for this week to get more information. So now, specifically to the OTA resource that is coming this summer. So we, instead of picking one location, last year, some of the feedback we got from Emilio and others was that there were 16 of us on the trip, but like literally 12 of us were from Oregon. And they kind of wanted a little more diversity and just meet more students from all over. We had some New York, some from Boston, some from like North Carolina. So what we've done is made two separate cohorts that we're going to help fund. So we have two locations. Is the Advocating for Justice program in Dublin, Ireland, and the Mentoring Youth and Raising Social Awareness in Morocco. So both of these, if you click the links on it, you can see information about each one, the specific program. So during the application process, when you're doing this Global Navigator high school scholarship, they let you pick up to 3 locations, and Ian can correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say there's at least 3 locations. So if you are looking to kind of get some of these supplemented funding, you can put kind of first choice, second choice, third choice. If one of these really interests you and you're hoping to get one of our scholarships, you can list this. But if you then end up winning a full tuition scholarship and there's maybe one you'd rather go to more that's in South Korea or something, you can still make that choice. You're just not going to get the kind of supplemented OTA funding. So in terms of who can apply, we don't have any kind of GPA requirements with our scholarship. So there will be some academic components in terms of who CIEE selects, and they have their own kind of third party board that reviews those applications. But in terms of us, as long as you are enrolled in a TRIO program, you are more than welcome to apply. The process to apply. So it is basically a 3-step process. The first, and you can click on the link right here on the website, but it just brings you to an actual application for the Global Navigator. You create an account and you start the process for creating Global Navigator. Mine's probably going to load a bunch of stuff because I've been in here and done a bunch of stuff, but this is kind of how you start applying for that CIEE scholarship. We would like our students to apply to both the CIEE application as well as our own internal. So it's really, there's kind of 2 separate applications. The reason is we try to use both funding. We basically have $50,000 that we can utilize to help fund not only tuition, but flights for our students to go. The more students that win some of those tuition funds from CIEE allows us to send more students. So if I paid full tuition, full flights, like realistically, I could probably only send like 6 to 8 students just with the funds that we have set aside. But because so many students, like Amelia last year, won tuition scholarships, we were able to fund 11 students to be able to go. So it is not a requirement. We did send some students that didn't get CIEE funds. We can still decide to fund whoever we want, and that's something that our International Ed Committee does. But we still encourage you to apply for both, because if you do win some funds from CIEE, it just makes it more competitive, because that allows us to stretch our dollars further in terms of kind of who we can send. You'll see on here, there is a $25 application fee that takes place during that application process. If you leave that blank, I can send a list to, like Ian, I can send a list to CIEE and they can waive that fee, and then we'll just pay it on the back end. But in order to do that, I need you to complete the second step in the process, which is our actual like OTA scholarship portion, right? This kind of gets you on a list that I can then send to CIEE so they can kind of create a roster of our OTA students who have applied. Ours is like there's just 3 short essay questions that we review. Otherwise, it's just some basic information, identify what cheer program you're in, and just some basic questions here, as well as a checklist. So you see down here, instead of asking for another letter of reference or referral, because that's already on the CIEE end, we're just asking for a checklist. So you, as the TRIO advisor, for your student, you go to your TRIO person and have them complete this for you. They're basically just checking boxes indicating that, like, yes, they view that you are kind of meet these criteria and are worthy for consideration to travel abroad. So this is our way of still kind of confirming that, yes, you're in a TRIO program. Yes, they approve of you kind of being considered for the scholarship without having to create a lot of extra work. So you're just going to get this form completed by them and upload it down here at the bottom with like the signed copy, right? So you just kind of upload that along with your 3 essays. So that is what the process looks like to apply, be considered for the funds. So there is our own internal kind of small scholarship process with that checklist. And then there's the CIEE side of things. From there, basically, we have our own review committee. We just look at our simple essays. And then we also will get the results from CIEE, usually in like February. And then we kind of make determinations based on the students that were funded through the scholarship fund CIEE has to offer, and kind of where our scores were, and we select more or less the roster of who goes. So you'll see on here, I have a deadline of January 13th in terms of the OTA scholarship. Obviously, the CIEE one was, I believe, the 15th. I think it's 15th or 18th. Can't quite.
18th. Yeah, 18th. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to be able to get a full list out over to them, and because I can see kind of who has started an application, if they have like finished or not as well, right? So I can view their applications in process. So if there's questions, as long as like they're on my radar and have done the OTA part, I can kind of like at least see a little bit on the back end and help students and you all as staff figure out what else is needed to do. As far as word count, like it does, I mean, you could be 300 words. It does not have to be super long in any way, shape, or form. Probably less is almost better, just kind of be very direct. Like a lot of the ones last year were not big, long, multi-page essays. So let's see. Okay. I kind of want to see if there are any questions at this stage. I know we've covered a lot about what the program is and kind of application processes. So now's probably a good time just to address any questions before I put maybe a kind of final cherry on the top of this call. So feel free to put it in the chat or just unmute and kind of ask any questions you may have.
Hi, Matt. This is Andrea, advisor at Astoria High School. And I did have a question. You said that you can list up to 3 different experiences. And I'm just wondering, if somebody picks a third one that's not one of the ones that OTA is covering, are they still getting that application waive, that fee, that $25 fee?
That's a great question. So I think the answer is just short and easy is no, because kind of once we select the students that are kind of like on the OTA roster, the ones that are partnered with us, those folks I have the ability to like pay their bills directly behind the scenes. So if they end up doing a separate one, I would say it's going to kind of drop off my radar and they're just going to be communicating with CIEE directly. So only the students that are going to the Dublin or the Ireland location and the Morocco location will still be in kind of contact with OTA and have a lot of that stuff help facilitated. The other programs are going to kind of just be direct communication with CIEE. So they will likely, it's just going to show up in your bill on the back end. So they can still potentially have it waived up front, but if they decide to go somewhere else when they actually have to pay their deposit or their final bill, depending on their scholarship amount, they'll just see that $25 charge as part of that.
So because they have the option of picking 3, do they have to pick 3 or could they just pick the 2?
And yeah, do you want to pop in and?
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute. So for this particular, if this is like an Oregon Trio student, you could list just the 2. I mean, typically the reason why we have 3 is in case, well, in order to just kind of maximize a student's chances for scholarships and then to get in, period, because some programs are more competitive than others and then have more scholarship money than others. But, in this particular case, just the 2 or the 2 Oregon Trio programs should be fine. Great.
And there will be like a selection period, right? Like we'll kind of identify students with the opportunities because it's relatively the same cost regardless of which ones they pick. So they'll have a chance to kind of self-select which one they want to go to. And it may be dependent on kind of what Ian had just said. The scholarship amount you get may be dependent on one location or the other 2. So that may force your hand a little bit. But again, the intention is if you're a student that is selected, it is full tuition, it is full airfare. And even if you don't have a password, I even did reimbursements so that students could get passwords. The idea is, or passports, with the idea being to kind of just remove those financial barriers for the students that we select. So, you're welcome to go anywhere. It's still relatively cost affordable, but when it comes to passport stuff, when it comes to flights, which can be upwards of $2,000, like that would just be on the student in those circumstances. All right, are there any other specific questions? Okay, we have like a little time left, and I'm just gonna play this because I made it and I did it. So I brought some recording equipment with me to South Africa and did some interviews with the students. So I put together, I think it's like 5 minutes. So I'm going to just share my screen here and play this video that I did last in the fall. This is just our Oregon Trail students who got to go to South Africa. So this is just kind of hearing directly from them about what the experience was like and what they took away from it. So hopefully, whoa, Let's just play it from here. This is big enough.
Hello, I'm David Huang. I go to Centennial High School in Portland, Oregon. The last 3 weeks have been incredible. I have loved every single moment of it, especially the people. I feel like the bonds that I've made, like, they're not just simple bonds that after maybe a couple weeks after will all be forgotten.
My name is Emilio Gonzalez. I go to Grants Pass High School and I am part of Talent Surge. The experience of coming to South Africa has been nothing but amazing. We've bonded here and kind of formed like a little family vibe. Throughout this program, we got the opportunity to visit different townships here, learn about the history here, and learn about the hardships that South Africa had to deal with.
Hi, I'm Naya. I go to Grants Pass High School and I'm in the Talent Search program. This trip has definitely influenced me to want to travel more and hopefully make world travel and culture learning a part of my life in the future.
Hi, my name is Latuang. I'm an incoming senior and I'm from Centennial High School. I think because of this experience, I'm more willing to take opportunities and I'm not as scared to do things. I think what I'll take back to my school or in my own personal life is to just try new things and take opportunities and try not to do them by myself, because oftentimes if I do them by myself it seems impossible, but with a big group I feel like it's more accomplishable.
My name's Abby and I'm from the Project Youth Plus Talent Search program. I think the program has made me more adaptable and more open to change, and that I don't have to have one plan in mind for the rest of my life, that it can change and grow. I've gotten to know my strengths and weaknesses and how I can grow as a person.
Hi, my name is Kim too, and I graduated from Centennial High School. I think the entire experience has been like incredible. I would say life-changing. I feel like because I grew up never thinking that I would study abroad. I would always think like, yeah, I'll travel like in the future when I have a stable job and I can afford it. But being given this opportunity, I'm really thankful for, because I have learned so much on how to connect my own culture and experience in America to a different country, and that just brings a lot of perspective.
My name is Isaiah. I go to Grants Pass High School. I'm a incoming senior and I'm in the Trio program. Overall, the experience was extremely eye-opening and made me aware of a lot of things that I didn't really think were relevant to me until I came here. I'm definitely going to take back the people I met were not just the ones in the group, but the ones that I met just at the elementary school where we did our service. The teachers there, the kids there were all super great to be around.
Hey everyone, my name is Susanna Velasquez Winosta. I am a graduated senior from Seaside High School. I totally recommend taking this opportunity, talk to your advisors, be open to new options that you see. If it weren't for my advisors at Seaside High School, I don't think I would be here today, and I'm honestly very grateful for them.
Going back to the United States, I feel like I've matured not only as a person just aging up, but also in a deep personal level, because in South Africa, doing service work, especially at a primary school, I realized that I have so much to be grateful for. And I feel like interacting with the kids and the locals especially, it really made me aware of how different a life in America and life in other countries as well. It took a village, literally, a village of students to do the work that we did, but I'm glad. I enjoyed every single moment of it. Would I do it again? Yes.
All right, So with that, we're pretty much at time here, but if you have any questions at all, you are more than welcome to reach out to myself or anybody with your TRIO program. We can help you through the application process. If you're selected, we'll be there, help you through a lot of this. Like Kelly had mentioned, we kind of do some workshops, and like CIEE will facilitate this with all the students who are going to your location and make sure you have chances to meet them and hear from local staff. We do some extra stuff just to kind of help onboard and get students prepared and ready to have the best experience possible. So I highly recommend you get as many students as possible to just apply to this and open their mind to just traveling the world and getting a really cool experience. So if you have any questions at all, emails in the chat. You can also reach out to CIEE there. They have their general email, the HS abroad, the high school abroad, as well as Ian's email. So if you do not have any other additional questions, I just appreciate you taking some time, and good luck to you all in the application process. So I got about like 2 months here. So go get as many students apply as you can. This is a great opportunity. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Ian, so much for your time.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody.